I wanted to say a few things about the Hunter Biden memes that are out and about right now. Very amusing, very, you know, it's depressing, but also amusing in a way. As I've said before, you know, I kind of feel sorry for the guy, even though I know he's a degenerate who's probably done really bad things, just because I get the impression that he's, you know, in spite of living in privilege, that he's had a kind of a rough life. It's just my impression of him. It's just my feeling towards him. But in any case, that doesn't mean that I don't think the Hunter Biden memes that are getting out there aren't. I mean, it doesn't mean that I'm not in favor of those memes proliferating. I'm glad that they are, especially insofar as they highlight the state of the first family, the degenerate state, I should add, of the first family. But something was here's an interesting thing, culturally speaking, and maybe this isn't going to come across all that profound to many of you, but those of you who are older like me can remember a time when comedy wasn't partisan, and can remember a time where, if that, like for example, if Joe Biden were president in the 1980s or the 90s, and the Hunter Biden stuff, the Hunter Biden memes were coming out, then they wouldn't have been memes, because memes didn't exist yet, because the internet wasn't around yet. But you know, just these clips were going around, you know, were being seen by people, even though the White House and most of the mainstream media was trying to keep a tight lid on it. If this were happening in the 80s or the 90s, you would bet your bottom dollar that every late night comedy, you know, from Carson to Letterman, Arsenio, and Leno and whoever else, they would have been all over it. They would have been, I mean, they would have been having a field day with Hunter stuff. And I don't know this for sure, but my impression is, I don't know for sure because I don't watch any of the late night guys anymore, but my impression is that I don't think, if you tune into Stephen Colbert, I don't think there's going to be a bunch of Hunter Biden jokes. That's just my impression. Maybe I'm wrong, but I somehow don't see them just teeing off on this obvious, you know, comedy gold. I don't see them doing that on Colbert or any of the other bozos that are out there trying to keep the late night comedy thing going. And that's because humor has become partisan. You know, you laugh at something. It's like you wait to see if you're allowed to laugh at something, because you want to know if by laughing at it you're helping or hurting the side that you favor. And that's not what humor is supposed to do. Humor is supposed to crash through every kind of barrier, including partisan barriers. Because what's funny is simply funny. It's just the way it is. And you can't help it if the humor is inconvenient to you, or if the humor you know, gores your ox, or if it gores the other guy's ox. It's just funny. So that's kind of a shame, really. But I mean, it's par for the course. It's the way we've drifted as a culture over the last few decades, but especially in the last decade. I've got to say, the last decade and a half, maybe, but particularly the last decade, and particularly the last 5 years or so. I've got to say, I went back and I've been watching Seinfeld for the first time, really, because I never really watched the show when it was out in the 90s. I don't know why. It wasn't like I had anything against it. It was just like everybody else was watching it. And I just thought, I don't want to just do what everybody else is doing. So I didn't watch it. I didn't feel any compulsion to start watching it. You know, I saw a few things here and there, heard about a few episodes here and there. You couldn't not hear about it because it was a huge cultural phenomenon. But I just never watched it. So I've begun just watching it episode by episode. And I'm on season 3 right now, which I think is maybe 1990 or maybe 1991. And again, when you watch shows that aren't even that old, you still have this sense of it being in this before time. Like Jerry was making fun of people who commit suicide and don't succeed. Like that was part of his routine at the end of his show. He said, why do they stop? Like, why don't they just keep going? Like, that's just one more failure. They're failures in life, and they don't even succeed at killing themselves. They should have more follow through than that. That was the essence of the joke. And it wasn't like a super edgy kind of joke. It wasn't, ooh, boy, this is really, you know, Jerry is really going some places, some dark places here. It didn't have that feeling or vibe about it at all. It was just like, and I doubt anybody complained about it. Maybe some, I mean, not enough for it to become a sensation. You know, this is the way things used to be. I felt compelled. I don't really do much on Twitter, but I felt compelled to tweet this because it came into my head this morning. I wrote something to the effect of how in the 1980s the default position was to be apolitical, and in the 2020s the default position is to be retardedly woke. So you know, somebody in the 1980s, you know, just a stranger, just a regular person, you wouldn't just necessarily presume things about them, or you wouldn't presume that they have to have certain ideas, opinions, beliefs about I don't know, homosexuality, about feminism, about any number of hot button issues, and that they would have to be on the right side, the correct side of these issues. It would just be like, oh well, it's just a person, you know, he's probably you know, maybe he doesn't really think that much about these things, and so he's apolitical. So a person like that, you know, just what we would call an NPC today, somebody who doesn't really think that deeply about things, just goes through life, again, the default position of a person like that would just be like, I don't know who I support. I don't know how I feel about this, that, or the other thing. And today, that same kind of person, it's been so pounded into his head that he's like, yes, I am in favor. Yes, I love Gay Pride Month. Yes, I am pro-trans. Yes, I think feminism is good. Yes, I feel that the Supreme Court was wrong to overturn Roe versus Wade. I mean, that's like the default position now, of somebody who isn't even that thoughtful. That's the way things have become. That's one manner in which things have become so hyper partisanized. And I don't know, maybe that's, you know, what some people call the Overton window. I never really cared for that term, but it's a symptom of how things are. Again, things are much well, just less pleasant than they were back not too long ago, when we could laugh at things regardless. You know, Democrats and Republicans and independents and non-affiliated people alike could all see Jerry Seinfeld make a joke about suicide, people who commit suicide, and not go, oh, that's in such terrible taste, cancel him now, but just laugh at it because it's funny. because it makes an interesting point, observationally speaking. Not like that anymore. So I've covered, I guess, a wide variety of different topics here, but it all, it was all inspired by the Hunter Biden thing. The Hunter Biden memes are hilarious. I don't see how anyone could watch them and not think that they're hilarious. Even if you're a Democrat, I don't see how you could watch Hunter Biden sliding down a water slide naked and high, or him weighing a bunch of crack, while hanging out with a prostitute, and not think that this is comedy gold. Anyway, just some thoughts, some random thoughts on the passing scene. Thank you for watching.